Hey there, this is the angriest person on the planet. How are you? Used to be want to be called the Planet Peace Lady or the Planet Peace Woman, and now I call myself justifiably outraged love. That's because drug dealers in Southern California took my cats and harmed them, and have tried to devise me in so many ways I can't even count them all anymore. I'm in daily contact with the local police in two different cities and the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Drug Enforcement Agency and Homeland Security. And I am the single most completely outraged human being on the face of the world. Now, let's talk about Anne Heche, who just died. Um, I'm making the fairly controversial, perhaps it's controversial, perhaps you're going to get what I'm saying and agree with me completely right away, but I am suggesting that she was, in a way, murdered. And we ought to find her drug dealer and put them in jail for manslaughter at the very least, and possibly murder, plain out and out. There is a situation in LA in which both Anne Hesh and another woman started driving at 90 miles an hour. And both of these women were involved in extremely serious accidents. As we all know, there was a woman, a traveling nurse, who plowed through the intersection of Slauson and La Brea, killing six people, including a 1 year old baby, including an 8.5 month old fetus who hadn't even had a chance to get born. That baby didn't get one day on this planet because some idiot plowed through an intersection and killed it before it got a chance to be born. It killed the mother, it killed the father, it killed all kinds of people. That idiot. And I cannot help but think that Anne Hesh and the idiot traveling nurse who killed six people with her car, who were both driving through Los Angeles at 90 miles an hour on the same morning, practically at the same time, had the same drug dealer. Yeah, think about it. There's no such thing as coincidence. And that is just too strange. Now, in the toxicity test done on Anne Hesh when she got stuck in the hospital with her burned body and her, broken lungs and her face that probably didn't look like a face anymore because she plowed into somebody's house and set it on fire, destroying all that person's property, almost killed a lady in her house, almost killed two dogs. I care more about the turtle that got out of there alive because the woman and her neighbor was able to save the two dogs and the turtle. I care more about the turtle than I care about people who do cocaine. Turtles matter more to me than cocaine users. That's where I'm at anymore. I used to have compassion. I even started the Planet Peace Project YouTube video channel to help people who were addicted to drugs because I learned so much in graduate psychology, in studies of philosophy as well, and religion, and in behavioral medicine. Anatomy, physiology, biology, biochemistry, all these things help a soul who's forced to travel around in a physical body understand how to deal with addiction and how to get off those stupid, crappy things that destroy your lives and that of other people and your pets. Now, I'm tired of hearing people whine about how hard it is to get off cocaine. It should be harder to stay on it. Doesn't that cost like everything you own? Doesn't that cost, doesn't cocaine cost you your moral integrity? Doesn't it cost you your friends, possibly your legal freedom, your physical health? Isn't the cost of cocaine way too high for you to endure another day? Or are you going to keep making excuses because it's affected your brain chemistry and your brain is what you're trying to use to make a determination to get off of it? Speed, heroin, fentanyl, all these things are crap. Get them out of your system, get them out of your life, get new friends who don't expect you to be involved with that sort of thing, and get over your bad self now. Be a good self now. You still have the time, if you're still alive, because unlike Anne Hesh, you haven't used your drugs to mess up your system so badly that you stick your car accelerator at 90 miles an hour and plow through people's houses. Now, prior to doing that and basically killing herself, she almost started a fire at a gasoline station. Anne Hesh was at some sort of convenience store that had gas pumps, right? And she was, blowing and going and acting real full of herself and real whatever she was. And she smashed into somebody's car there. And the woman, both she and Anne Hesh had just gotten gasoline and there were gas fumes everywhere. Anne Hesh ran into somebody's car and almost hit the person and almost started a bunch of gas pumps on fire. She almost blew up a gas station. Then she went driving through Mar Vista, where I have lived before. Those are my stomping grounds. She blew through my territory. And I don't like it when people blow through my territory in cars traveling 90 miles an hour because Mar Vista is a quiet, beautiful neighborhood with children and pets walking around in the streets. And she could have killed a dog, a cat, or a child with her outlandish, bizarre, completely out of control behavior. And I have no sympathy for people like that. None. No mercy. No mercy should be shown. These people who are drug addicts, drug dealers, they should all be in jail. We should have prisons the size of Kansas and stick all the drug dealers in there and the drug addicts and let them eat each other. No food, no water, just lock and key, and let them cannibalize each other because that's all they're worth anymore. The rest of us are tired of you people making excuses for yourself. Get over it. There are plenty of resources for people who are drug addicts and alcoholics. You can fix your life, but you got to have the courage to try. And unfortunately, these people are using brains that are so altered by the very chemicals they become addicted to by choice that they can't even function and make decisions like that. You got to get off the drug long enough to make a decision to stay off the drug. So when is that going to happen? So Anne Hesh, after almost setting an entire gasoline station aflame, and that would have been, probably some kind of big explosion that could have hurt a lot of people. She then smashed into the garage of an apartment. Now, a lot of the apartment complexes in that neighborhood are small and they generally have underground parking with the apartments on the first and second floor that is above the parking garage. So she could have collapsed an apartment complex of several layers into the ground because she smashed into what was probably an underground or a first floor parking lot or garage. Then people tried to help her. People tried to get her out of the car and help her, but she wouldn't be helped. She would not be helped because she was so wired and flipped out on whatever drug she had in her system again. And so she goes barreling through Mar Vista, quiet, lovely neighborhood that it is, my former home, my territory, and plows into that house, catching it on fire, almost killing a woman, almost killing two dogs, almost killing a turtle, which is more important than a drug addict to me, and then ends up dying of her injuries. And I'm thinking, well, she was on either cocaine or speed or had like 7 or 8 times too much Adderall, which she probably manipulated a doctor to get or whatever, But I already know because of my training in biochemistry and behavioral medicine and so forth that this woman had to have been chemically altered or she would not have been able to do that. She wouldn't have done that. Then we get to the point where the toxicology tests run on her, soon to be dead body indicated that she was definitely on cocaine and fentanyl was in her system. It was not clear from the news that I read whether fentanyl was given to her in the hospital as a painkiller or if fentanyl was in her system before she got into the hospital, which she did it herself. Now, in Los Angeles and San Diego and all these places that are hotbeds of fentanyl abuse now illegally, it is well known that that stuff can be doctored, it can be tainted, and that it is killing. Fentanyl is the leading, listen to me, fentanyl is the leading cause of death in people ages 18 to 45 and people who sell cocaine, including one lady I know in San Diego who has been arrested something like 5 times in 6 months. Some cocaine dealer brags about now having branched out into fentanyl. She's an animal abuser. She shot her husband. She shot her dog. She takes cats and dogs into foster and then demands money for their return, like holding them hostage. And then she kills them if the people can't pay ransom for their animals that she claims to have been willing to foster for free. This woman is a horror. And this woman is probably the person, this woman in San Diego is probably the person that sold Ann Heche the cocaine if it was doctored with fentanyl. This woman brags about putting fentanyl in cocaine because cocaine, although it is inherently addictive, is significantly more addictive if it contains that hideous, deadly drug, fentanyl. So I think that Ann Heche was essentially murdered. She was murdered by her drug dealer. And when we find out what toxins were in the system of the traveling nurse who plowed through the intersection of Slauson and La Brea, and we will find out that she was also on some sort of stimulant, we will probably find out exactly the same toxicology report exists for her physical system as well. They were probably on the same drug. They probably had the same drug dealer because two women don't start barreling down streets at 90 miles an hour in Los Angeles on the same morning for no reason. There has to be a connection between those two events. And I already wrote the police chief asking him to look at that. I've already contacted the district attorney asking him to look at this because there has to be a connection between those things. There's no such thing as coincidence. And I was already the angriest person on the world before I had to care this deeply about 6 people who aren't going to get a chance to live out the rest of their lives because some idiot was high and driving at 90 miles an hour and couldn't be bothered to notice that the light had turned red. And people are dead. It's too bad she isn't one of them. No mercy. None. So I'd like the police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Agency, to look for a connection between the drug dealers for those 2 women and look for fentanyl in cocaine that specific drug dealer is selling people, because I think you're going to find it. And I think I know the person who sold the cocaine to Ann Heche because she brags about sticking fentanyl in her drugs, and she brags about killing people's animals, and she brags about having shot her husband's various important parts off, and she brags about having killed her own dog, and she brags about being vermin. She brags about being a devil worshiper. She claims to be a high priestess. She claims to be, she seems to be a professional with a background in various pursuits that people would say is respectable and so forth. She's a complete fraud. She is a complete fraud. And I am going to expose that person, and I'm going to bring her to her knees, and I'm going to put her in jail for the rest of her life. Because nobody sells cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, worships the devil, and gets away with it on my watch. No one harms cats and dogs and gets away with it on my watch. I'm going to put that person in prison where she will die. And oh, yeah, the woman I think who lives in San Diego, who I'm pretty sure sold that cocaine, probably laced with fentanyl, to at least Ann Heche and probably the traveling nurse as well, claims she's murdered two people at least, and also once took blood out of, with permission, from someone who was dying of leukemia and COVID-19, and who did die, from what I understand. She withdrew blood from this person who was dying, then drugged another person and injected someone with leukemia and COVID. And she laughed about it and said that she was trying to murder the second person in slow motion. But from what I understand, that person still isn't dead and will probably live long and prosper. You know, rage alone is a very, very potent fuel for survival. One of the things that the cocaine dealing, fentanyl, heroin, drug dealing, devil worshiping, oh yeah, human trafficking, slave selling person, she sells whole human beings alive to into the international slave trade. She and her husband, who deserved to have his shot off, she I don't know. More later. You've just heard a video made by the single most completely outraged person on this world. And I will go ahead and say what I was going to say. I have learned something very, very potent. I have learned a wonderful, wonderful means of survival. Convert all your pain to rage. And if all your pain is as great as mine, because I can't find my cats alive, then that much pain converted to rage becomes a volcanic storm that can bring down the lives of criminals and their cohorts and their families, and they are all slime that are going to die in jail. You mark my words. My words. Now, my name is Love, but I am changing my name legally to Justifiably Outraged.